Welcome. Today is Tuesday, January 13th, 2026. We are in the Fayette County School Corporation Admin Building. If everyone would please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted and amended?
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Any
second.
discussion?
I'll second.
All in favor, signify by raising our hand. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
6. Chris will be here. He's
Okay.
Okay. So now, action items. First is to do our reorganization. So we can do a slate. Do we have anyone to nominate for a slate of opposition?
I would like to recommend a slate for approval as I throw things. For board president, I'd like to nominate Erica Beck. For vice president, Leslie Jacobs. And for secretary, Ann Kirshner.
Any discussion? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we switch spots.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to say publicly, as we're moving places here, just want to say thank you to Sasha for stepping into the presidency. Obviously, we had a change in our board with Brian stepping off, and Sasha's done a great job in his absence, so I just want to say thank you, Sasha. You've done a wonderful job.
Fantastic job.
And Erica, come on over. Welcome to the seat.
Now we need to make a motion to appoint the corporation treasurer, if you want to speak about that.
Yeah, so I want to recommend Mrs. Tina Smith to be the corporation treasurer for the Fayette County School Corporation for the year 2026. Tina has typically served as the deputy treasurer. We've talked many times, Brandy, Mr. Harris and I, many times about the fact that Tina really needs to be the treasurer for our corporation. So part of the reorganizational session is appointing corporation treasurer, so that'd be my recommendation to approve Mrs. Tina Smith in that role.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have any discussion? Do we have a second?
Madam President, I'll second the motion.
Do we have any discussion? Everybody stand by raising your right hand in agreement. So a motion approved with
6-0.
6-0,
Yeah, Chris
sorry.
isn't here quite yet.
Moving on to appoint the corporation attorney.
Okay, yeah, so Lewis and Kappas has served as our corporation attorney, who I know for quite some time. Michelle Cooper specifically has been my point of contact while I've been here at Fayette County School Corporation. It's done a nice job for us. It'd be my recommendation. You see the engagement letter there. Essentially, we keep her on retainer, and then we obviously have hourly fees thereafter. And so the only thing that's changed there is the dollar amount, which has gone up slightly, which is just like the world today, right? So my recommendation to approve that our corporation attorney for 2026 as presented.
Chairman, can I just have a question more?
Yeah,
for the public?
please.
Can you explain what the attorney does for the?
So we engage the corporation attorney quite regularly. So any issues we have that might be personnel related, that might be a question of procedure, how we do things to make sure we keep the corporation above hot water. If we have any type of tort claim against us or any type of claim of anything, that she would be the one that would come and fight on our behalf. So we use her quite often in our work, and oftentimes this is simply an email that we ask. She's reviewing some financial documents for us. She's reviewing MOUs that we might sign with the other organizations, things like that. So their firm does a lot of good work for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the corporate attorney?
Madam President, I so move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I choose to abstain from voting.
All in favor? So we have a 5-1 abstain with the approval of the corporation attorney. Moving forward to the resolution to approve the board compensation for 2026.
Yeah, so annually during the reorganization session, it's a good time to look at your compensation as a board. I want to say publicly, we all know that you don't serve here because of the compensation, right? So I will tell you that we've been at the same level of, I believe, $2,000 for a year. That's paid biannually, I believe. And you do have a per diem for different meetings that you attend and such. And so I've laid that out for you in your memo, all that's there. I bring this before you because the statute changed. Essentially, the law now says you can pay the board up to 10% of what our starting teacher pay would be. That starting teacher pay is $46,050, which means you could make essentially up to $4,600, $4,605, if you chose to. That's really your decision to make as a board. Those per diem rates I put on your memo as well as where we currently are, and those do have maximums as well. So you do with that as you see fit as a board, but I do want you to know that I do appreciate your work, and we don't pay you enough. But at the same time, I do understand keeping it the same as well, if that's what you choose.
Jeremy, if there's a, oh,
Go ahead, no, you go ahead.
I was just going to ask, I think what you were going to ask, so I'll let you proceed.
No, you go.
I was just going to ask, if we don't want to adopt the resolution, do we even have to make a motion?
You wouldn't have to. If you want to keep it as it is, we don't necessarily have to adopt a resolution. You could adopt a resolution. I don't know when the last time it was done.
It's been
So-
it's been
No, it's just been a few, it was when Scott was here, so it's probably a couple of years ago, maybe the year before you came
It was,
in.
yeah,
And we upped our meeting
because we upped our meeting rate because ours was within the lower,
It was on the lower
was
end and it hadn't been
very much
adjusted.
lower end.
I would feel more comfortable signing an annual resolution, honestly, that does set that rate, like that make me feel better. But no, to your point, Leslie, I do believe, because that's what we've done, like we didn't bring it before you last January. But I do feel like best practice is to bring it before you in January and to readdress it every year and go ahead and sign a resolution to do so.
The statute changed, and that was huge. I mean, because the statute said we got a $2,000, and then it was up, the state gave us $2,000, and then we could set our per diem. So basically, we've had a fundamental change that would have doubled our pay, and
I'd like to make a motion that we keep it the same.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Everybody, do we have a discussion?
I just want to say that board service, I don't know when people ran, if anybody inquired what they got paid, but.
I didn't hear anything of that.
Yeah, most people that choose board service do not choose it for the pay, and I think it's an honor to serve. So to me, I would do it without pay, so that's just my discussion.
Thank you, Leslie.
Everyone in favor, raise your right hand. Motion or approval of the board compensation for 2026 was 6. Moving on to the approval of the superintendent discussion groups.
Just for the public to know, we do have some times that we have members of our board that take part in smaller, I guess you could call them committees, so to speak, to do some work behind the scenes. For example, we have I know Ian and Sasha have served on our policy committee as we've done our policy overhaul and done a lot of work in the back end before it's brought before the full board. We have other groups that people serve on as well. And so bring this before you every January. I've sent this to you. We've had a little bit of discussion behind the scenes, if you will, as far as what you might be interested in. And here it is in this final form for you. I'd ask for approval of that discussion, the discussion groups as presented.
Would anyone like to make a motion for the approval of the superintendent discussion groups? May I have a second? Any discussion? Everybody signal with your right hand of approval. 6. So I need to make a motion to adjourn.
Well, we have one more item,
Oh,
item H. Yeah, no, you're okay. You're doing great. Item H is the approval of newspaper for legal advertisement. I would like to recommend that we use the News Examiner for that purpose. This is for legal advertisements for when we bonded, we had to have legal notices that were put in the paper, those types of things. Bob couldn't make his under the weather tonight, so he's
Okay.
watching online. But just want to designate the Connersville News Examiner as the public or newspaper for legal advertisements.
Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll second.
Everybody in favor? It's approval of the newspaper for the legal advisement. Now moving on to making a motion to adjourn this meeting.
This would adjourn the board, the reorganizational session, and we'll move into the Board of Finance session, so, yeah.
Madam President, I move we adjourn. I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Okay.
Call to order the Board of Finance. With that, we need to make a motion for a slate for President and Secretary of the Board of Finance. Do we have a slate?
Go ahead. Well, I move that we have Sasha Henderson be the president of the Board of Finance and Dustin Munson be the secretary of the Board of Finance.
Okay.
Well, it's not a plum job. Most people don't want it, but I think you guys would do a really, really good job at that.
That's your motion. So you would ask for discussion.
So I've a motion to have a slate for Sasha to be the president and Dustin to be the secretary.
Discussion.
Anybody make a motion?
Yes, that was your
Oh.
motion, so now you're gonna ask for discussion? Yeah.
Discussion?
Second.
Do you want to be?
Somebody else
Do you have
wants on
interest?
finance.
It's not a heavy lift.
You want to? I'll vote for you. I'll take it, it's fine.
Okay. For a second.
Can I call for a second?
I'll make a second, a motion. Thank you.
Okay. All in favor? 6-0, okay. Approval of the President and Secretary of the Finance Board. Moving forward to the investment review by Dr. Summers.
Yeah, so you should have in your packet a document. This says corporation interest received during 2025. So this is all of our accounts, CDs, everything that shows the interest income that we pulled in 2025 across all those things. So the top shows the education fund. One is the education fund, operations fund is next, followed by our construction fund. So we earned just about $990,000 last year in interest off of those funds alone. So it was a really good year for that. Prior year, I went and did some research. I always look back. So prior year, we did about 1.4. A lot of those interest income payments come off of those construction loans that we've had, those large $6 million. So the interest was quite large. So that will diminish over time as those are expensed out. And so
as you spend that money, there's less money in the bank to accrue interest, right? So
the middle part of it is First Financial Bank is our primary institution that we work with right here in Connersville. So we have an operating account, it's got $11 million in there. We've got a money market, it's tied to the GO bonds, 7.5. And we have two clearing accounts, one tied to payroll, right? So I don't know if you guys know how clearing accounts work. So as individuals work for us, right, that negative increases in that clearing account until the end of the pay period. Then that money is balanced with general fund dollars to pay out to those people. So same thing for the credit card machines that we have. So finally at the bottom is our CDs and First Financial cash sweep account. So it doesn't show any interest rate there because it's a variable, it's changing month to month. I think last month I looked, it was like 3.44%. So there's $1.2 million in there. We have CDs at First Financial Bank, BMO, 2 at Union Savings and Loan, FCM Bank as well. So you can see the interest rates that we're pulling off of those and when those mature. Again, I looked back last year, we were roughly 900 9.8 million across all of those at the bottom, so we've increased that about $280,000 in interest income versus last year, just on those at the bottom. So, great year. Moving forward, as we spend, various other things happen. We'll have to exhaust some of those funds, I think, in the funds, so the interest income should probably decline a little bit moving forward. So we'll see where that goes. So, yeah.
Question.
Sure.
So when these come due, so we've got one coming up in June,
Correct.
do you roll over just into another CD with First Financial, or do you shop?
We shop.
Okay.
We definitely shop. So, yeah,
And
absolutely.
do you,
100%.
you know, I noticed somewhere else, must have been on some other presentation.
Sure.
Do you get input from from Baker Tilly?
Baker Tilly, yes. So we'll reach out to them,
Okay.
they'll survey the market for us and give this information.
Okay.
And then we'll make a decision at that point. We'll bring that to you.
Okay, but yeah, I just wondered what the process was.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions? No, we're good? Okay, so the next document in your packet should be the investment policy, which I believe was updated just this prior year, April? April 8th on the back. So, really, the state law and all this information on this outlines exactly what we're able and should be doing, right? So we want to find an institution that is backed, FDIC insured, backed by US Treasury, whatever it may be, if we're going to put funds there, right? So security is the number one thing. Number two is the liquidity of those investments. Are we able to get to those funds if it need be, if we want to, right? So, and then obviously the terms, right? How much interest we're going to get, time frame, that kind of stuff across all of our investments. So, any other questions on?
This is a fairly new policy, obviously, so this came before you in the month of April, so.
Yeah. So, any questions about investment policy?
Basically, we just followed the statute.
Yes, ma'am. Correct. So I'm not sure. I have some slides. Will this work? Maybe.
Terry, he's coming.
Oh. All right.
If he turns it.
So another
You
required
have to
component
try.
of the Board of Finance meeting is to go through what's called the DUAB report.
DUAB
So the
report, yes.
Distressed Unit Appeals Board. You can go and look at that data anytime you want to online, you just have to search for DUAB.
Yeah.
That's another one of the components that Jim's going to go through.
So yeah, DUAB was new to me, so.
What's
So,
DUAB?
this is just the financial health of the corporation as it is. So this is the in arrears kind of view. So this isn't as of 2025, this is going to be 2024. So they're lagging in their information on their website, so it's not always up to date as far as what we would think. So this ADM is though. So obviously ADM is hugely important to track. It's tied to our money, right, and income that we're getting. So historically, we've shed 57 kids a year on average. This past fall was up a little bit. We were hoping that it was going to bottom out, but unfortunately it did not. So, we have 57 kids times just under $8,000, so that's $450,000 a year.
Times the last
Yeah.
decade, 10, 11 years.
Yeah, so we're losing quite a bit year over year, so it's a concern, right? So.
These are the kids that graduate midterm that are count in seats for fall, but they are not in our count in seats for our February count, correct?
Sometimes, yeah, you mean the drop from fall to spring?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would show some midterm grads, that would show expulsions, unfortunately, that would show some kids that might have moved away. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, next slide. So fund balances by type, you should have this, it's kind of hard to read. So the biggest thing to pay attention to is the orange and the yellow. So the orange, I think, is the operations.
Which is education.
I'm sorry, you're correct. Orange is education. So, and then yellow is the operations account. The blue is tied to the construction loans and bonds. So those will go away so eventually. But we know that the education fund has been increasing as well as the operations. I think that's tied also to the COVID dollars that we had, right? That helped us free up not having to expense a lot of money over those last few years. So we've built up those funds. We know education fund is tied to everything that's in the classroom, right? So teacher pay, principals, everything to get the education to the child in the classroom, right? Operational fund, everything, basically everything else, right? Busing, all of us here in the admin office, overhead, infrastructure, HVAC, all that kind of stuff. So we're still positioned well, like I'm not nervous, makes me happy. So we're in a good place.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
So on that past, previous.
Sorry.
So the federal stimulus funds, I know for 2021,
Yep,
and going forward, it's really hard to discern the colors.
it is.
Hard to see.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
if I'm correct, we still had some in '24. Was that the end of ESSER in December of '24?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And then, what is the negative ones? Is that federal funds or that's, what's federal funds?
Those are federal.
It does look that way, and I don't know why the graph looks that way.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Dr. Childers, any idea?
I'm not sure.
And also the federal
Do some research
stimulus
on
funds. So I'm confused between this color and that color.
It appears that
Is one
that
capital?
color, that's your rainy day fund, is the color that's above the equator here.
Above the equator?
Yeah, that's your rainy day. This one, that's your
Okay.
rainy day fund.
Oh, okay.
Which is
So
pretty
federal-
static, right?
Yeah, so the federal stimulus funds were in the negative?
I don't know why it's listed that way. I honestly don't know, because we all know that's not the case.
Yeah, right,
Particularly when it
right.
comes to ESSER dollars that we had
Yeah.
after COVID. I mean, and again, we just spent those out and
For
had to
sure.
do some reporting on that, of course, and
Yeah.
audit and such, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why do I reports it that way. I don't know.
Yeah. And, annual deficit for surplus, is that right? So yeah, this is just taking basically our total revenues, showing that they're greater than our total expenses year to year, over year to year. The black line is really where the fund balance is in total. And so again, we're in a good spot. I think we've always, back till 2019, I think it is, 2018, we've always had a surplus at year end. That's what it looks like to me, so it's been good. So fund balances as a percentage of expenditures, so this is interesting. Historically, you can see that it's been kind of hovering around 55, in the 50s for a long time, and then it kind of jumped up. So personally, I think we should probably get it down somewhat, so try to expend some of our funds.
So is that cash balance?
So this is the fund balances in total across everything. Yes, so fund balance, cash, yes. So we need to spend those funds down. I think 70% is a little high, personally. I think in the low 60s would be a better spot. I think some of that will also be to the effect of changes coming downstream. I think we're gonna have to dip into some of those funds to offset some of those expenses and variation in SEA billable and when it hits and that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting moving forward for sure. So this one is revenue by type. So this one's a little interesting. So the top is actually what Leslie kind of asked about, is the ESSER funds. So this time next year when we look at this, the ESSER funds will not be there at all. They should drop off. The blue is probably the one that we need to pay attention to the most. So that's the tied to the ADM and the revenue that's coming off of that state funds. The lower one in pink is the local property taxes. So a lot of that money is tied to debt service. A lot of that money goes to debt service payments moving forward. So just an interesting graph there. And then this is just a mirror image of the other document that I gave you already. Corporation interest received year over year. So this shows that we're just under $1 million across all of our funds versus last year where we're at 1.4. This is just the same thing on that same page. So interest accounts across all of our CDs and stuff. So again, I think we're positioned well. My worry is moving forward, EDM, SEA1.
So Jim, I have a question again on,
Yeah.
I know you said we need to spend down some of that money. if we know we're not gonna get as much money going forward,
Correct.
so like I'm thinking about if it was my own personal finance, if I knew my income was gonna drop,
Correct.
I'd bank that money, I wouldn't spend it.
Correct, and it's a perfect storm, right? So I wouldn't say we have to spend it all, like, I wouldn't do it, I'm not saying that we should do it exponentially quickly. I'm saying that we need to do it gradually, taking into effect and account what SEA 1 possibly is gonna do. But I think that the fund balances are quite high.
Okay.
And I've heard Randy Harris say the same thing
Yeah.
since I've been here.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing to have cash balances.
Absolutely.
I think it's important to note, though, that we're not a bank, right? We don't have, like, we take money in and we use that to serve kids well. And, but to your point, Leslie, I agree 100%. With 2028 coming, SEA
For sure.
1 is coming. We know that we're going to have some shortfalls in our budget. We know that we're going to have to shift to more of a levy management perspective rather than
Right.
that tax rate.
Yeah.
Things are going to change a little bit, and so we got to be ready. So I'm okay with having those cash balances. We'll see what SEA 1 does and how much it affects those, and we may not have to be intentional about sitting with that. It may do it for us, like, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Compared to other school corporations, it would appear, at least from what we get from media, that we're in really pretty good shape.
Absolutely.
We've been very good stewards of our money over the last few years because there are other corporations, even in our area, that are having significant
Absolutely.
financial difficulties, and that's without the effect of SEA is coming down the pipe. So
Right. Yep.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you and your predecessors for taking such good care of
They're
us.
very good stewards, for sure.
That's a credit to the board as well.
Yep.
Thank you, Dr. Summers.
May I have a motion to adjourn the Board of Finance meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Moving forward to, what need a motion to open it?
Yeah, we probably should. It's not listed here, but we'll just make a motion to go ahead and begin the regular business meeting.
May I have a motion to begin this regular business meeting?
I so move.
A second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, great. Well, tonight we have a few presentations. I would like to invite forward Ms. Morgan from Frazee.
So at Frazee, we are wanting to focus on providing students with opportunities to find something that interests them. So Mrs. Marentez, our 4th grade teacher, has done a really cool thing, and I brought her here and some of her friends to help explain that to you.
Hello.
Amy.
I have the privilege of working with the talented media team at Frazee. I created FFN earlier this year, and I was inspired by my father, who does the BES today at Franklin County. Our program FFN has evolved into a vital communication tool, and it's no longer an in-school announcement. It's a professional production that connects our students, our staff, and our parents. I'll let 2 of our lead anchors, Kaylee and Jenna, take it from here.
Thank you, Ms. Martez. Good evening. I'm Kaylee, and I'm part of the team that brings Frazee Falcon News to life. Every week, we produce a full newscast that is shared throughout the school and posted on our social media pages for parents and the community to see.
I'm Jenna. Because our show is pre-recorded rather than live, we have the opportunity to really focus on the art of digital storytelling. We are able to share morning announcements, the lunch menu, the weather, and important events happening in our building.
Our production process is very detailed. We start with a storyboard, move into filming, and then spend hours editing the videos before sending them out. This ensures that when anyone views our production, they're getting a high-quality look at the great things happening at Frazee.
By sharing FFN online, we've been able to bridge the gap between school and home. It allows parents to feel like they are part of the school day, even if they can't be there in person.
We have an example of one of our daily broadcasts to show the variety of stories we cover and the professional style we strive for.
We want to thank the board for the support that allows us to build these skills. We hope you enjoy this look at FFN Face Falcon News.
Let's see it.
Good morning.
Buenos dias.
You are tuning into Frazee Falcon News.
Today is Thursday, December 11th.
Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
You guys are okay.
And remain standing for the hymn of song.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today for lunch is A, chicken drumstick, B, cheese quesadilla, C. Now over to CJ with the weather.
Thank you, Gabe. Today it will be cloudy with a chance of snow. The high will be 35 with a low of 18. Friday will be cloudy with possible snow showers. The high will be 25 with a low of 11. That's all for the weather. Now back to you, guys.
Happy birthday to Danny, Lloyd, and Micah Yates.
Happy birthday! Go to the office for your birthday surprise.
Wear your favorite pajamas tomorrow. Remember, no slippers.
That's all for today's news.
Have a thoughtful Thursday, Falcons, and remember,
The only impossible journey
is the one we never begin.
I'm not sure why the students didn't show up, but there are students on there. We do post it on our...
Yeah, I thought I saw
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
there's usually people there, so I don't know what the glitch was, but we do use a green screen and the kids are usually on there. And we try to post it on our Frazee Facebook page.
That's so awesome.
So we've enjoyed our time. If you guys have any questions or
Do
how
you
we
do the graphics or the kids or?
Right now it starts with me because I pull kids from other classrooms when I can, but I don't want to take too much of their educational time away. So we're hoping at some point the kids will get to dabble in that, but they help videotape some things. We did one for Thanksgiving, and they went around and asked all of the teachers what they were thankful for. So they really enjoyed getting to take the camera around and asking the teachers those things. But they do get to see the green screen, we use a green screen, and right now we're working with Canva.
That's awesome. So do you watch CHS today? Do you watch?
We actually have not watched CHS
Ooh,
today yet,
yeah.
so, but I did CHS today when I was in school.
Okay.
And then my dad started the BES today, and I thought maybe I'll try it.
That's awesome.
Great. Good job.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Great job, guys.
Thank you.
Good job.
Moving on, we have Miss Ann from Grandview.
All I heard was there was money to spend. So Dr. Summers and I are going to talk later.
So mechanical.
At Grandview, we have a PowerPoint. We're going to focus on just a really quick infographic, really, on fluency, which is under one of the pillars of science of reading. Oh, good.
Right here.
There it is. So just really quickly an overview. So the science of reading, all our elementaries in Fayette County have done an outstanding job of learning the science of reading. Going backwards, we've all learned about it in college, and so these are just the really basic 5 pillars under the science of reading. So that's what we cover. So we're just going to talk about that middle one, fluency today. So 4 parts of fluency. It's not just the reading, it's the rate, your accuracy, the prosody, kind of that emotion behind it, and of course understanding what you're reading is part of fluency as well. Am I too fast? One more.
Third time's charm.
Third time's charm.
Is it at the bottom? How does that do?
There.
Terry. So at Granby, we always like to include our students, so we asked our kids, what do they think a fluent reader sounds like? So these are some of our student quotes, and they're really, if you could put them all together, they really are dead on. And just in kid term, I love that you don't sound like a robot, and we say that to them all the time. You saw the characters in the book. You can tell those kids have had lots of read-alouds out of Miss Jenny Smith's class. She's a fantastic read-aloud. Reading smoothly, not too slow, not too fast. So they all have a working idea through 1 through 6 on what it is. But the Science of Reading says, this is the official definition of what science reading says that it is. And if you look at that, they even include the word robot. Not so. The kids are right on. Not choppy and robotic. Yeah. Effortless, smooth, conversational. We say that to them all the time. It's just like you're having a conversation. So fluency does happen in stages. So you'll see teachers attack this in the classroom differently just based on what's happening. Letter sound fluency, you're going to see a lot in kindergarten. We have adopted curriculum all around these stages. Word level, you're going to see phrase level happening in classrooms, and then of course reading full text itself. So that just kind of breaks down, like in the perfect world, what it looks like going over the K through 6 gamut. You'll see a kindergarten, and it just keeps growing. We always are surprised when we think about, like, oh, Mike, that kid can read, and then we start getting into prosody and things like that, and how much that just stretches somebody you think is already a reader. So it's a fascinating pillar in the science. Oh, that was a video. So, letter sound fluency in action. That would have been Mrs. Leach. She recorded. So we. That's okay. Yeah, it was attached when
I
shared.
online.
Huh?
It was online.
Was it on yours?
Yeah, I watched it.
Okay. So and then
This was good. I just forwarded it to me. I can send it to you guys.
Yeah, it was good.
And then if you keep going, so you're gonna miss the good parts live. So I guess that's what counts, right? Mrs. Leach there, or Mrs. J. Smith would have been there. It would have been an example of a lesson of word level fluency with first grade. And then you would have seen phrasing in action there with Mrs. Smith. And here's the good part anyway. So Ryan, we can't not download Ryan. She's here live. So,
Good thing.
yeah.
Good thing. Way to pull.
This is Ryan Day, so she's a third grader, and she is going to do a read aloud with you guys. And this is a text that we often use, and it's very popular. We use it to introduce students to the power of punctuation and the beginning of prosody, right? That punctuation means something. So Ryan's going to read to you. She's going to read one page, and she's going to point to the page, and then it's your turn. So this is an interactive read aloud, okay?
Nice.
All right. Don't listen. Dr. Clippers.
Yo.
Yes. She's like, they're slow.
Hey.
Who?
You.
Me?
Yes, you.
Oh.
What's up?
Not much.
Why?
No fun.
Else?
No friends.
Oh.
Yes.
Look. Me.
You.
Yes, me.
You.
Well.
Well. Yes.
Yo.
Yes.
So that's just something that we often use to just introduce kids at the youngest level. Outstanding judging, because she reads her little brothers. Like she has the teacher hold down. Teacher mom, and she reads the little brothers all the time. Yeah.
Teacher in the making.
Teacher in the making. Do we have any questions tonight? I'm so sorry you didn't get to see the videos.
And we'll make sure that we send those as presents. I'm so sorry that, well, I don't know what's wrong with technology this evening, but we'll make sure we send those to you guys so you can take a look at them. So, yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. McCann.
Thanks, Terry.
Strategic planning with Ms. Starr.
I feel like you guys set me up for failure. I
know.
I mean, I'm gonna make you repeat after me too.
Just say go.
Be prepared. I know you all, most of you know me in the room. Jared, I've not had the opportunity with yourself, but my name is Lauren Starr with Starr Consulting, and I have the privilege of working with the corporation in the strategic planning process. You all know me that I like to move around, so I'll try to anchor myself right here behind this as we all talk. I do have a couple slides that we're going to talk through, and I know this is a lot of content that you all are going to see. Everything is going to be shared out with you all. Jeremy's going to get an email out for you all so you can really digest it, but I wanted to have some visuals as we talk along. But the first thing that we're looking at is this original timeline. So if you think back, my goodness, it's been almost a year, I think, since we started this journey originally. And this is that timeline and kind of organization of the strategic plan development that we set forth. And so you see that in that kind of gray area at the top. And these are our 1 through 5 steps. There's a lot of pieces in this. But if you look towards the bottom, this is showing where we are at and what we have completed. So the first thing that I wanted to share today is kind of where we started, what we've been working on, and where we're going in the form of this timeline. Steps 1, if we look at step 1, that's that current state. That's when we were diving in to find all of the data that we needed to support the plan. So if we think back, we started this in July with you all at the board retreat, which was fantastic. That gave us the opportunity, my goodness, I think we had 5 or 6 hours together to dive in. It was a long, thought-provoking day, and that set the foundation of the work for the strategic plan. We wouldn't be able to be where we're at about 6 months later without that day and that foundational work. And then we did have a couple months where we were not progressing in regards to meeting, but we were working behind the scenes. We know school kicked off in August and September, so we were getting adjusted. And then in October, we were able to dive in with the directional team. I think Leslie coined it the best. It was like a speed dating round of strategic planning. We get hour increments with that directional team. And at this point, we've had 3 hours total, October, December, and January. But we were able to dive in with the directional team and do mini forms of what we all did at the board retreat. So we dove into SWOT analysis. We were able to run some really strategic exercises based on what we were able to do with the board. And what that did was provide the foundation, for the community survey that went out. And so that leads us into the next step. That's that stakeholder input. And this is where we wanted to engage the community, staff, faculty, external partners, workforce partners that we have. And so that information from the board retreat and the directional team, that built our community survey. That went out December 1st, and I think we ran that to December 22nd. We're going to dive into some of that data in the next slide, but we were able to garner 580 responses from that, which is phenomenal. And we've got a ton of valuable feedback, not only for the strategic plan process, but for the corporation as a whole. So that was a phenomenal piece of that. And so that rounded out that stakeholder input stage. We talked about this a while ago, but oftentimes those first 2 and 3 steps take the longest. Now, we're cooking with oil, we're really going to start progressing rather quickly, but it did take those months to really build up that foundation for the plan to move forward. Now we're moving into step 3, which is our strategy mapping and kind of our feedback. This is bringing us up to current time right now. We were able to meet with the directional board just last week. I think last Tuesday I was able to come in with the directional board, and we were able to look at some of the data we're going to look at next from the community survey. And we were able to talk through what those core themes that bubbled up from that community survey. We know it was bred out of the work from you all and originally with the directional team, and what we found is tons of the same items were confirmed to be the most valuable, not only internally, but externally when we went to the community. So we were able to kick that off
in January and talk through last week with that. We talked about some of those core themes and what the directional team thought may be the pillars of the plan as we start building through, and then we're going to bring that to you all to talk through. And then the next piece of that is, as we're sharing it now, we are going to ask for your feedback in this. So we do have some draft pillars that Jeremy and the directional team and I were able to talk through, and now we want to bring that to you all, share that out, and get your feedback in it to make sure everything is aligned across the board. Excuse me. And now we're diving into that plan development in step 4. So step 3 and step 4 are going to be working kind of at the same time in tandem as we're progressing, because we want to make sure that as we're drafting the plan, we're getting feedback along the way. So I know it may have felt like, we started off with you and maybe there's been a little bit of a void, but that was intentional because we wanted to ask everybody else and get everybody up to the same speed that you were able to start off with. And now everybody is going to progress at the same pace now in the process. But moving forward for the plan development, we have a really great opportunity that Jeremy and Kim have been able to afford, that I'm going to be able to come into the professional development on January 19th. And some of our directional team who are part of that process will be able to dive into this work. So we're going to start working the strategy mapping. We're going to dive into those pillars. We're going to start talking through to draft those core pillars of the plan, and with your feedback that we're going to ask you to participate with us in. And then as we talk through the data, there's going to be a point here that we're going to talk through where we really need to dive in and have your feedback and involvement in some operational strategies, because something we have found in the data of the survey is that the operational systems is something that supports every theme throughout, and we know that falls under the purview of you all and the board. So that we want to make sure that we're capturing that as we go forward and getting that feedback. And so that's going to progress us through steps 3 and 4 in that development phase. And of course, the step 5 is when we are going to have that final draft. We're going to ask for the input. There's going to be lots of back and forth. But eventually we'll come with that final draft for you all to approve after everybody has put in and been able to work through all of their pieces of the puzzle. And so that's that timeline. I know sometimes it may not feel that we've made that progress, but we've made tremendous progress all the way through as we're progressing. I know that's a lot, and I gladly will do questions at the end, but does anybody have anything just looking at that initial, initial timeline?
Can you explain to the board what is meant by the operational side? Because when in the directional team, a comment that Jeremy and Kim tossed around was what % of their work is operations and not day-to-day, seeing the kids, instruction.
Absolutely. We actually have a slide breakdown next after this that we will, and if I don't answer it, please, Leslie, ask it again by all means. I know this is going to be hard for you all to see up there, but we are going to share these data slides and a few more in regards to this survey afterwards. Excuse me. But what this is showing, these are some of our top results from the survey. And like I said, we had 580 responses that came back. I can't see, what is that, 384? I don't have it in front of me. Thanks, Kelly, appreciate it. It's so small, I can't even see it out there. We have 384, 88 of that came from our parents and guardians. That was the breakdown of that. And then we had 117 came in as staff or faculty, which is a great turnout on that. 42 members identified as community members, not a parent or staff. 19 was business and industry partners, and then we had kind of everyone else in the other category, and that was 14, and that's our breakdown on there. Great numbers on our survey to have come back, and we're really pleased with those numbers coming in. Like I said, this survey was crafted around all of the information that bubbled up between the board and the directional team. So we were really intentional about the questions that we asked, and then the follow-up. So these are some of those big buckets that we touched on. If we go down to the second question, what should the top priorities for the school corporation as we plan for the future be? One of our tops was strengthening academic achievements, which would be where we want that to fall, right? So that shouldn't be anything shocking on that. Our second is expanding career pathways and real-world readiness. This is a theme that comes up consistently throughout this survey, is that real ready, life ready. And then third, in our top is improving student mental health and well-being. Also extremely consistent in the themes that came up through the survey. This, leads us to that there are these clear, strong priorities that are top standouts that the community is looking for. Into the next question that we touched on, this is a big one, and this leads to the operational areas. Which operational areas need the most improvement? And this was used to be able to kind of see where these pillars would land. Top one came back with staffing shortages, which that is probably no surprise to you all. Second coming in is food service, pantry, and basic student needs. So kind of that overall supports for students. And then rounding us out was technology access and effective use. That's also something that came up a lot, not only in the survey, but all of the conversations we had, is technology, adapting to the technology, parents being supported in the technology. So that confirmed a lot of the things that we had discussed in our different areas. And then the next one that we're looking at here is what future outcomes are the most important for the school corporation. Top one here, increased student achievement. Again, that seems like that's a clear front runner. Better student behavior, attendance, and engagement. And then improve student mental health. And so that's also that reoccurring theme that we've seen throughout, is the supports for the whole child, mental well-being, anything that can support the student in that way. I'm gonna go, oop, man, touchy today. The next piece, and we're going to circle back to some of this data, and there is a lot. We had a total of 15 questions on that data survey. When we send out this information to you, we are going to provide all of those survey results. Those are the top ones we wanted to touch on right now. This is the last one we'll talk about the survey, but this is in regards to the portrait of a graduate. And we intentionally wanted to have this in the survey because if we've done the strategic plan the correct way, we want to produce it in the same time with the portrait of a graduate, that if we have a successful strategic plan, we produce this well-rounded graduate from the corporation. So this is something we wanted to make sure that we got the opinion in. And you can see 85% out of our 580 responses said that this encapsulates what a well-rounded graduate should be. And if you remember back to the survey, if you were able to take it, this question had one of those open-ended answers on it. So we actually were able to receive a lot of really great feedback in regards to the portrait of the graduate. Some things down to visual representation, a few edits here and there, but really great next steps for the portrait of the graduate. This work has nothing to do with me. This is all the testament to the directional team. This all happened before I came in. But the really great point is, we don't have to go back to the drawing board on this. They are already well on their way. This is already hitting all of the marks, but we can use some of that feedback from the survey to really make some of those poignant edits in regards to the portrait of the graduate. So the intent with this, when we do produce a final strategic plan, this will also be produced in final to go along with the plan, which is really great. Any questions in regards to the survey data? Okay, we're going to have a breakdown, and Leslie, this I hope is going to answer some of those in regards to the operational that we were talking on. So this is a really condensed form of all of the Granules survey data. These are the very top themes that came out of all of the data from the survey. Number one coming in the strongest was life-ready graduates. I don't think that's probably any surprise, but this was life beyond high school. This was real world. This is responsibility, problem solving, all things to produce a life-ready graduate. And this is the theme that bubbled up the strongest throughout all of that data. Followed very closely with student achievement and learning growth. This is academics, this is personal, this is foundational skills. These are all things achievement and growth center. And this was a top priority. And as you can see as we're looking at this, this was not only off the survey, this was from the board, this was from the directional team, and it was validated from the survey, all of these were. Next, very closely as a top priority was the whole child supports and well-being. Top priority across the board, this is mental, this is behavioral, these are even health supports we have talked about. This is partnerships to really support and help the students succeed all the way across the board. The next one that we saw as a consistent theme was culture, belonging, and positive school climate. We talked heavily about this at the board retreat. This was something that everybody found so valuable. It was validated with the directional team, and it was 100% confirmed as a top priority with the community survey. And so this was something that just making sure that we have expectations set, behavior, parents are supported, it's a conducive environment, all things around that culture and belonging in that school climate. Followed very closely with a consistent theme of relationships, communication, and trust. And these are in all forms. It is internally, student to teacher, teacher to parent, it's parent to leadership, to the board. It's across the board. We saw that as a top theme, that it is that relationship, communication, and trust across within the corporation and internally in the schools. And then the last one we're seeing, and this is that piece that I want to talk with of where we really need your support, is operational excellence. This is something that of course came up heavily in the board retreat. It was echoed with the directional team, and it was confirmed with the community survey, that operational excellence, we are not able to exceed and excel at a corporation if we are not doing our operations at the best of the ability. So this is a continual supporting theme that actually supports every other thing, right? This is facilities, this is safety, this is transportation, food services, it's building quality, it's all of those kind of not fun things that we want, but we have to, finances, all of those things that have to be in place and at the best of the ability to support the culture of belonging and positive school climate, student achievements, all of those things have to be supported by those operational excellence. And so that is a continual supporting theme. And that is something that the directional team, after discussion at our meeting last week, they really honed in on the fact that you really can't do anything else well unless we're doing all of these foundational things well. And that's you all, right? Most of those things fall under the purview of the board. And so when we get to the point of crafting those pillars of the strategic plan and we dive into the strategies, that's you all. We need your work, we need your feedback, we need your partnership to help craft those strategies under each one of the pillars to support the operations. Because that is where you all are going to be the strongest resource for us. Any questions? I know this is a lot. Like I said, we'll give you an opportunity to digest this in a easier way here. But any questions on kind of these and these pillar themes?
I don't think this is a question, but I wanted the board to hear something that Jeremy mentioned and Kim echoed, and that I think I got the percentages right. You guys said 85 to 90% of your work every day in and out is operational, which or at least 80 to 85%. I mean,
Depending on the day, absolutely.
And I think that was really when I heard that, that just really hit me because it's exactly what the board is. So the majority of our work is operational.
Absolutely.
We're not, while all these other areas are important to all of us, that's not the decisions we make in this room. And so it was just a really interesting percentage.
Yeah, and that might have been a little hyperbolic, I don't know, but like
It might have been that day, I
Maybe it
don't
was
know.
that, but we do spend a lot of our time, obviously, with those things that support the good work happening in the classroom. The reality of it is, we can't be there, right? We trust our administrators and their teachers and our instructional assistants and all those people to make sure that they do what they're doing. But everything that we do as a role is operational and supportive of that work, right? With Daryl and with his team and with Terry and his team. All of that supports the good work that happens in the classroom. So 100, I agree with that, and it does take a lot of our time. Yeah, a lot of our time.
Great. Thank you for bringing that up, Leslie. But that's completely spot on with it. And it was confirmed when we looked at this survey data that we have to have those pieces to move everything forward. And so we wanted to make sure we shared this when we worked with the directional team last week. We were able to kind of dive through and talk through what potentially could bubble up to be those core pillars of the strategic plan. And we know with the strategic plan, essentially we choose these large buckets, these core values that we stand on at the corporation, and then we put focus areas underneath of those, and then we set strategies that are going to make those pillars happen. And so when we get those draft pillars and we say these are our core values, we then have to build out those strategies underneath. And so we had the active discussion of having an operational strategy under every single pillar that's chosen chosen, based on how valuable that is to move all of them forward. And that is where that board piece is going to come in very heavily with us moving forward. So that is kind of where we are at up until this point. And so I do want to share with the last piece of where we're going next steps. And so the very immediate next step is that we are going to share all of this content out to you. Jeremy we'll get it out maybe tomorrow, the following day. We're going to attach a survey where you can digest this information, give your thoughts, go through that slide, and you can look at those pillars. And we want to make sure that we're aligning with your thoughts also before we move on to the drafting stage. And so we will get that out. We're going to ask for that feedback, and that feedback is going to really focus on the clarity of those pillar themes. We're going to ask your input on that. We want to make sure that it's aligning with the district's priorities. And if there's any pieces you think that maybe that survey didn't show, that we need to make sure that we have identified. So that's immediate next steps. And then, like I touched on before, we're able to move in with the directional team on the 19th. And they're going to take that feedback that you are able to provide on the survey, and we're going to dive into work groups within the directional team and start looking at these pillars and diving into what it's going to take to build those out. And I think we have a couple hours with the team, which is going to be fantastic to be able to dive in. And then, of course, we're going to bring that all back to the board and have you all, when we get to that draft point. And this marks the transition where we are turning from focus setting to really plan development. That's that kind of turning of the corner. And then the next piece, Jeremy very kindly has brought up that you all I think are going to dive into some work sessions in February. And so I am going to hoard in on that work session, and we're going to start diving into the strategies and those operational strategies underneath each pillar, and start strategy mapping around that to start building it up. So we'll collaborate on that. We'll bring back any of the conversation that comes up from the work groups in that point. And then another key piece that we talked about very long ago in July was potentially crafting the vision statement for the board. And that was something that I know you all echoed as being very valuable, and we'll want to dive into that then. Because in the same sense that we provide that finalization of the portrait of a graduate and our strategic plan, we want to have that updated vision statement that you all can have just as valuable to go along with that strategic plan. So that's what we'll be diving in February. Like I said, we're cooking with oil now. We're going to be really diving in with everything. Excuse me. There you go. And this is just that original timeline if anybody has any questions on anything that we went over or what has been going on with the work up until this point.
Lauren, thank you.
Yeah.
You got a lot in there very quickly, so nice job. And like Lauren said, we're going to be doing some work on the 19th. Your feedback will be appreciated, but it's quick. So we meet with our directional team again during that work day on the 19th, which is a week from yesterday. So if you can, I don't think it's too lengthy in terms of the feedback.
It'll be a short feed, yeah.
If you can get it back to us as soon as, I know you can do it, you can do it. Take a little bit of time, and that will help us on the 19th when we meet with the directional team during our professional learning day. So, but yeah, thank you, Lauren, for that. Do you guys have any questions for Lauren? Or where we are?
This is fantastic. You know, this is, we needed a real plan for a very, very long time. And with the constraints that we have with SEA 1 and so many things in our community, this is just really a fantastic way to look. And the feedback that you got back, that was fantastic. To get that many people to respond. Sometimes I think we think the public is a little bit apathetic. Clearly, they're not. And that was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
much.
Thank you all.
To finish out presentations, it'll be Gibraltar and Skillman.
Good evening. Congratulations to all of you on your new positions and repositions. And I will share with Chris that you were all good people for not nominating him for everything because he was not here. That seems to be the move, and you guys chose not to do that, so that's great. And then something else I learned, you guys know that I have fumbled with transitioning slides for like 3 years, even well before Superintendent Duncan was here, and Terry recognized it tonight. I'm left-handed. He told me he could give me a left-handed mouse next time, so that made me feel better. I thought it was me. All right, we're going to go through a presentation tonight. I know that you guys have had quite a few presentations, so we promised to keep it brief. But if you want us to go further, we can do that. And part of the purpose of tonight was to give you a design update. Want to also make sure that you see the schedule. And then when working with Skillman, they do multiple rounds of estimating to make sure that we're on track. So you think of all the meetings that we've had behind the scenes, not including the board in the last few weeks and months. With that, conversations happen, things develop, and we go this way instead of that way. And Skillman is that checkpoint to make sure that we then provide some updated documents to make sure that we are still trending in the same direction that the board set when we started this journey together in Eastview Elementary. And also the purpose of this design too is to give you an idea of, we have been very intentional because we know that Frazee wasn't your only elementary to address, and we know that Eastview is not your only elementary to address. And so because of that, we have been very careful about what we have designed is implemented in the other schools. And so what you see tonight is that we'll show you the comparison of where we ended on Frazee and what the current reality of Eastview, and then know the plans of where we're heading. And so again, Mike's going to go over that piece rather quickly, but you can stop him if you would like us to slow down. You guys are well aware of your mission, and it sounds like you're going over your strategic plan to maybe even update some things. But when we started Eastview and Frazee, you guys remember the original design intent, and it is that mission of providing a safe and secure environment, providing that equity across the district. No matter your address, you still get the same opportunity and experience. And then what we have appreciated working with this board is you guys pay attention to every single dollar, and that is what we are doing with the design as well. And so wanted to put that in the forefront. So I'm going to pass it on to Mike. Mike's just going to give an update of some things that may have just more, I guess, refinement from previous conversations.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, everyone. I'm back again. Gibraltar and Skillman have been progressing with the design of Eastview. Last time we met, we were in an early design phase. We are developing construction documents, actually contract bid documents that will be completed and soon turned over to Skillman, and they'll issue those out to bid. And like Chris said, Victor and his team are helping us stay on the budget. To get to this phase of design, we're approaching the same we did at Frazee. I believe Chris and some of our folks from our Gibraltar visited with the principal in December, the week of the 12th, and they went through what we call a functional criteria document. It was a very expansive, detailed discussion about every space in the building and what goes in every space of those classrooms, media center, art, cafeteria, gym, everything. Every part of the building was covered. That was sort of that's the same thing we did for Frazee. So we went through, there are a few subtle differences because they're different buildings, obviously, between Frazee and Eastview, but the scope of work that was completed at Frazee is what we call base bid design for Eastview. So what's a little different about Eastview is the addition for life skills, okay? There's a couple other small intricacies within the building that might be different, but for the most part, it's the same approach for this building. So on the site plan, that's the orange areas where the classroom addition for life skills is going to go, and where that is now is in a it's where the hard play is out in that area. It's going to take over where the playground, there was a swing set there that's going to be removed, and that's going to be turned into a new, refresh that asphalt, so it's all new asphalt, and it's going to have some game lines with it. So it's going to have an appearance of a new playground out there. And a lot of that has to do because the utilities that have to be put in place with the addition, whether it's sanitary or storm, we have to tear up some of the asphalt to get to it, and the construction of that addition. So you're removing some of that asphalt playground to build the addition. Other than that, that's really it for the site at Eastview. Again, the area of this plan, the floor plan, everything that's colored is basically what's being touched at Eastview. The gym is pretty good shape. You can see there's nothing really happening in that area. There is LED lighting going everywhere, but like in the gym, the finishes are in great shape. There's no need to redo that. These are some of the areas that we touched based on and functional criteria. I'm not going to go through every one of them. I'm going to go pretty quick. But you can see the benchmark is Frazee. Here's a typical classroom. Again, you have some loose equipment, student workstations, cabinetry, and new finishes, as well as a new ventilation system in each classroom. Typical casework in the classroom will be student storage, teacher storage, there'll be a teacher wardrobe, there'll be some counter cabinets, and then there's a sink in each classroom. Life skills, you may have seen some earlier concept designs for this, but this is the actual plan, the final plan, what it's going to look like. You've got 4 life skills classrooms. 3 of them we know life skills will probably move right in. One of them, we're calling it a flex classroom, so until that 4th life skill classroom does move in, it can be used as a regular classroom. That's why you see a restroom accessible from the flex classroom and a sink there. You notice there's not a sink in the other life skills classroom. So in the future, that flex becomes a life skills classroom. The suite, I call it, the center area where there's a sensory room, a shower, and a laundry area. That's all self-contained within that suite area. And there's an open area in the center we call small group instruction, SGI. There'll be some cabinetry in that area, refrigerator, sink in that area. So that's basically they can have small groups in that area.
OTPT, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yep. The sensory room will have a swing in it, just like your existing sensory room has. Again, casework and the life skills, a little bit more casework in life skills. So they don't have a separate storage room, so they have more cabinetry in these spaces. Art and music classroom combined, so it serves both functions. I'll have a couple sinks in there with new cabinetry, as well as new finishes like a typical classroom. Oops, sorry. I'm going the wrong way, I apologize. Media Center, like Frazee, new finishes. Some of the existing cabinetry in that space will continue to be used. Cafeteria, new finishes. In the cafeteria, the new heating system going in there, replacing the horizontal ventilators with new energy efficient, quiet, vertical unit ventilators. We'll probably have to do some work on the floor, but the existing terrazzo is going to remain in that space. The stage will have new finishes on it that oriented towards the gymnasium, just like Frazee. Typical large group student restrooms include, again, open wash labs to the corridor, custodial closets, staff restrooms, whether they're private restrooms or designated for staff. Typical corridors will have new finishes, as well as LED lighting. The main office, for the most part, is new finishes, but there's no new casework or furniture planned for that space. The only area that we've been asked to update is the clinic at Eastview. Unlike Frazee, the clinic here is getting new cabinetry.
And we are going to look at Frazee as well. As you know, we were significantly under budget on both the Frazee and the pool project. And so we do have some funds that we could look at doing that at Frazee as well.
Yeah, so the clinic in this area here is the same space. I think right now there's only one cot. We looked at, there's a way to get 2 cots in there, just how you rearrange some of the cabinetry in that space. So that sums up, for the most part, what we talked about. Again, we did this for every area of the building. I'm going to turn this over to Victor to talk a little bit more about the schedule. Like I said, we're going to continue working with the design documents, turn those into, we call them bid documents. And then when it comes to the point where after the contract's awarded, they become known as construction documents. So with that, Victor.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it, board. Just to give you a few milestones to anticipate where we're at, as Mike indicated, we're well into those bid documents, and the intent would be that we would have those complete for issuing to bid in March, end of March. There'll be a couple of updates. There'll be another update for the board before that, as well as a finish meeting. So they're really getting into those nitty-gritties of colors and textures and finishes now at this point. So then we'll put it out to bid. I think we'd like to have 4 weeks of bidding, put together those bids and bring to the recommendation of the board in May, in your May meeting. We anticipate construction starting in the fall. That's strategic. If you recall, we want to make sure we start as soon as possible, but we don't want to start too soon and then sit around and wait for materials to show up. And so we anticipate it may not start until after, start of school. We just want to time that to limit the amount of construction duration. And so I think the other thing is that bidding in May, we want to signal to the bidders that this is not something we're going to try to rush and pack into the summer. Most contractors that bid public work are already got their book filled for the summer. So we want to grab those bidders that are interested in work over the winter time. So I think strategically, that's the other reason we may not start till fall. And then we still have some things to work out with phasing and construction. This project has a new addition, which is going to be a new component to our phasing in terms of when we want to start the new construction as soon as possible. That'll be the longest duration. If you recall, Frazee was done in multiple phases and was fully occupied while we did that construction. What we're trying to work through here is how do we work around the life skills population. That's the most concerning population, how to have the least impact on them and optimize. Obviously, the longer the construction, the more you're going to pay. So that's the balancing act.
Yeah, thank you. So to that point, I mean that's a pretty big thing for us to figure out. Stepping into next school year, what that's going to look like. We don't have the margin at Eastview in terms of extra space that we have at Frazee. If you walk into Frazee right now, you get a couple classrooms there that aren't necessarily being used for classrooms. Eastview is every single space is full. So does that mean modular classrooms? Does that mean displacement of classrooms somewhere else? Does that mean, what does that mean? So we're having those conversations right now, and we will have that ironed out by the time we get to bid, and we'll know what that looks like, so we can appropriately communicate with folks if we need to. But just know those conversations are happening in the background. So it is what it is. It's sometimes we have to do things we don't want to do for a short period of time for the end result that we want, and construction's messy, and so we'll come up with something good though. Is at least the best thing we can do for you. So.
My favorite saying is you can't wait for us to get there, and then you can't wait for us to leave. And so we don't take offense by that, but we know that it's challenging to work in that construction environment. We've, as Chris mentioned, we've done actually 2 estimates since we last spoke with the board, just to make sure we don't get off track from the budget that the board had set. You see the building renovations we anticipate are, if we were to bid it tomorrow, we think somewhere around $6.5 million for the renovation component of that project, which is pretty close to where we anticipated landing on that. I'm happy to report that the building addition and related site work is quite a bit less than we anticipated. I think we've got a very efficient design, we've got a very efficient building solution. The sort of site impact was much less than we had feared. So glad to report to the board of that. I think we had $1.3 million set aside for that building addition and site work. So that's much less. So we're still carrying what we call a design contingency. And so if you imagine, Chris picks up his pencil, he prints the set, he sends it to us, we estimate, he's still working. And so there's some things that are still being developed. So we're trying to capture the potential changes before we go out to bid. And so we've set aside 5% of that estimate in terms of where it might grow. So again, at $7.75 million construction project, we've set aside dollars for furniture, and then we set aside a soft cost, which would be fees, any other construction contingency. I talk contingency a lot. Design contingency is what we don't yet know what's going to be on between now and we bid the project. Construction contingency is dollars that we set aside in your budget when we encounter things in the field during construction that we have to address and cost dollars. You all have probably done home improvement projects. How many times you have to go to Home Depot or Lowe's or Menards to go get more materials? That's the kind of thing that happens to us. You put a shovel in the ground, you find something you didn't know that was going to be there. So we want to make sure that you have dollars in your budget for those unforeseen things. And happy to report on Frazee and the pool that we have dollars left over from those contingencies. So that's always the plan for the worst, hope for the best in terms of dollars. As we've been developing the design, there's been a couple items that, again, we're constantly evaluating, how does this compare to Frazee? What's the quality level of decisions? Making sure we're matching the quality level. We've got a couple alternates. We're going to bid these items to isolate the cost, to take a look at that. One of them is relatively small, tamper-resistant receptacles. Essentially, as part of the life skills area, we're going to make sure those outlets in the wall will have tamper-proof. That's a very concerning population. You want to make sure they incorporate that. We're also going to take a look at what it would cost to do it throughout the building, just as an additional safety feature.
It's one of the things that came up after we got done with Frazee.
Yeah, it's something that came out of the conversations at Frazee. It's an opportunity. And again, if we have the opportunity to spend another $20,000 and add that feature to the project, you'll have that choice. And that's what we're trying to create with the alternates. We've had some discussion with the board in the past about roofing replacement. You're right at the point of the end of your warranty. It's not falling apart. It's not blowing off. This is an opportunity. You have the dollars. So we're going to go ahead and bid that project as an isolated component. I can tell you we did do some cores, so we now know the full sandwich of that. It's actually 2 roofs on top of the existing structure. So we will bid that, and you will have the choice to either take care of it now, or you can set those dollars aside and deal with it in the future. Again, that'll be a decision working with Daryl and administration. What are your priorities, and what do you plan in the next 5 years financially, whether you want to do that then or now. With that, I'll let Chris wrap it up. Any questions? Sorry.
Yeah. How much time left on our roof warranty?
I believe it's like,
What did she, I'm sorry.
she asked how much time was left on the roof warranty.
It goes until early 2027, so not a lot.
Okay. And what is the condition of the roof at this time? I mean, is there any work we can get done under that warranty?
Probably, from what I've heard, is 5 to 7 years, maybe.
Okay.
It's a matter, do you want to put $10 million under a roof that's that old?
Jared, wasn't there a less permanent solution that we could do that was cheaper?
Absolutely.
That would extend the life of the roof without a huge commitment, like $800,000?
There is another estimate out there that we could look at, individual from local people to do.
That just enhances the current roof, is that?
Extends the life of it.
Extends the life of it? Okay.
Basically, we could be looking at a new roof from a company. That would be relatively cheaper, I think, but.
Gotcha. So you're saying that you think we can do it outside the project cheaper?
Yes.
But there's also an option to do it even cheaper than that if we would
Yes.
do something that we
We
extend
can
the
do
life.
some minor repairs and get by. We can do a new roof outside of the project and save some money, or we can go here. We got 3 options.
Yeah. So our discussion, Victor and I, was basically, hey, let's just put it out to bid. Let's see what it comes back at, right? It's an alternate. You don't have to take it as far as it's not part of the base, right? So just out of curiosity, see what comes back at. So.
I guess I would add that, if you think in terms of when you go purchase anything, there's always that sort of good, better, best. We're trying to give you, if you will, the best solution, which will completely tear off everything down to the structural deck and start over. There are ways in which you can just replace the top layer. There are ways that you can coat or extend the life of that. Each one of those have a cost-benefit analysis. So we're going to bid the, if you will, the best solution.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Victor. That makes
Thank
sense. There's also no shelf life on documents, and so if you choose not to accept the alternate and write it out for a few more years, and then you decide down the road, those documents would still be worthy to do work in the future. So you just would have to rebid at that time.
Let me add one thing on the roof. The alternate also includes all new metal edgings around the building, fascias and metal edgings.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. So to forecast what's coming up, Principal Charlton did get a chance to visit Frazee, and so she got a little bit of feedback, was able to see the restrooms, and so it kind of built some excitement and then kind of built some questions too. And so we're going to circle back with her, have a conversation, and also want to review finalized plans for life skills with the life skills team one more time before we, pencils down, which is pretty close. And then that will be coming up within the next 2 weeks. We have a scheduled interiors meeting, and that is a very long meeting where we get a chance to pick out every single detail and then see what it looks like. And once we're done with that, we're going to bring our homework to you guys in March and give you an update to start to show you what that life skills space is going to look like. What's the gym going to look like when it's done? What's the cafeteria, hallway quarters, all of that, so that you can start to see and the community can start to get excited about this, because at that point it's real. And we also will plan a Eastview staff meeting in early May to make sure that they understand, hey, what is happening, when is it happening, how does it impact me, and what can we expect. And so we'll do that same thing we did with Frazee. We'll do Eastview as well, so we can give them the information they need. And then simultaneously, Skillman will continue to work with school leadership and Principal Charlton about that phasing schedule, so that it's something that, as you guys know, that what they do is try to have the least amount of impact on learning throughout the process.
Chris, I know if Mr. Duncan's good with it, we would like to sit down with you guys to maintenance of what we learned at Frazee that we would like to see different at Eastview. We got to do.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Any further questions? Would you like us to go into more detail with the presentation this evening? Okay, all right. I'll take care of that. You guys had enough.
Perfect.
Yeah.
No, it was well done. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, thank you. So everybody's good, understands timeline, what that looks like as far as the start of construction, most likely sometime in September. Everything as far as all the steps before then, obviously, will come before you. Lots of work happening in the background, like they said, that the meeting we had, it was like a 3.5, 4-hour meeting. I think Chris told me it was going to be like an hour.
Yeah, I did feel bad about
He did
that.
lie.
Big time lie.
Yeah.
February 13th, I'll bring a special treat for the finish meeting.
Hey, what about us in March?
That's what I was thinking.
That's a great idea too. What's something to celebrate in March? St. Patrick's Day.
There you go.
But that's it.
It is Board Appreciation Month in the month of January. What'd you bring this evening?
That's what I'm talking about.
Never mind.
I shorted press that right in there.
We'll move on. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to public comments. And public comments. We're going to move on to the approval of the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes, the personnel report, the approval of the December claims. We had a donation of $500 from the Hoosier Feeder Company Incorporated from Knightstown. This donation will be used to provide the outstanding students in the welding technology program with a scholarship or tools depending on their future plans. We also had a donation from the PMMI Youth Skill Fund Grant submitted by the Hoosier Feed for $1,234.63 to Whitewater Career Center to be used to purchase exhaust filter for the program. Financial expenditure goals. Do we have approval?
Yeah,
Oh, and a
conflict
conflict
of
of
interest as well.
interest, sorry.
Yeah, and just know, if those conflict of interest statements could potentially come in throughout the year. If they do, we'll just bring them before you, so. But that is essentially anybody that we could potentially do business with, right? That's aside from, or that could be connected, I should say, with the corporation anyway. So, and there was one mistake on the personnel report we need to make sure we note and change, and that was, Sasha, can you give me the name?
Ryan Field, 7th grade, from baseball to softball.
Yeah, it's just a typo, so that should be softball, so make sure that we note that. So we approved Ryan to be a softball coach, not a baseball coach. So very similar sports, but yeah. That is Ryan, is she? Is that what you said?
No.
You say she?
No,
Oh,
I said he may appreciate that.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yes.
Coaching softball.
Thank you, Sasha.
May I have an approval for the consent agenda items? A motion.
Madam President, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second? Do we have any discussion? All in favor? Raise your hand. Any opposed? Approval of the consent agenda. Moving on to action items, the approval of out-state field trip.
Yeah, I just wanted to pull this out of the consent agenda just to make sure you see it, and it's a trip, I think, I believe, I'm trying to find it here, I can't find it.
No, it's Diesel mechanic.
Oh, the diesel
Diesel
mechanic,
yeah.
that's right, yeah.
Columbus, Kentucky.
But if you remember, I started bringing before you, thank you so much, I appreciate that. I knew it was the National Farm Machinery Show in Louisville, I just didn't remember who was going. But all overnight out-of-state field trips, I like to bring before you so that you're aware of what's happening if our kids are out of state or going somewhere overnight. So my recommendation to approve that field trip as presented.
May I have a motion to approve the out-of-state field trip? Do we have a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Approval of the out-of-state field trip. Moving on to the school board policies.
Yeah, so for your consideration this evening, we have some policies for a second reading tonight. These came before you last month. I won't go into too much detail. We have F-176 unpaid meals. We also have F-100 internal controls and reporting losses, shortage, variance, and thefts. We have F-275 gifts and donations, F-300 time and effort, F-325 debt management, F-350 cash balance and liquidity. And we did have some revisions of previous policies that have already been approved in the past. And that was D-300 controlled substances and alcohol testing for our CDL drivers, F-125 purchase procedures for capital assets, F-225 fundraising and crowdfunding, at G-125 criminal organizational activity. Obviously, I've given you guys a synopsis the past few weeks on your Friday letter, spelled out some of those changes and some of those things that are in those policies. Are there any questions about that before we move to approve? Okay.
May I have a motion to approve the school board policies?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Opposed? Approval of the school board policies. Moving on to a discussion item of the school board first reading policy.
Yeah, so this is our last big batch of policy that's before you. And I say big batch because we still have some loose ends to tie up, so I apologize for that. We're working on a few policies right now, working with CCHA to get some clarity on a few things. But these are being brought before you for consideration for first reading. They do not require, obviously, any vote this evening. We have H-125 Corporation Support Organization. This is essentially the policy that's affirming your support of nonprofit organizations such as PTOs, booster clubs, similar groups that help us serve kids well, but also require some oversight, right? And we don't want these organizations to be using our logos and such if they're not using them in an appropriate way. So there is oversight that's provided by this policy in that regard. And just so you know, we did add some internal controls in regards to PTOs, booster clubs and such, where we do review now their quarterly financials, at least quarterly. We just did that in December for all of those organizations because we all know we had an issue this past year that was really unfortunate, and that hurt kids, and that's not okay. And so H-125 speaks to that and how we make sure we hold those organizations accountable to a standard when they're working with our children. C-500 school trips and privately sponsored activities just talks through how field trips should be instructional in nature, how we gain approval for those field trips, how we make sure they have proper supervision, insurance, all of those things, have parent permission required, and then makes a delineation between school-sponsored trips and non-school sponsored trips as well. So all that language is in there for that. There was question about this policy previously. The reason it was delayed was because there was language there that essentially said if a student cannot pay for a field trip, that in itself would not deny them the opportunity to do it. That language a little bit sticky. While I agree with that in my heart, we do have some field trips that are pretty expensive. So there are times that we take field trips that are abroad. We take field trips to Washington, D.C. We can't possibly, as a school corporation, pay for every student to go on those types of trips. And so we've said, essentially, when reasonably able, the school corporation will not deny a student the opportunity to go on a field trip because of finance only.
Can I ask,
Yeah,
do we
please.
have any, I mean, I don't know, number one, and Brian's not here, but how many students we ever have that can't go to DC that want to?
It's a good question.
Because I am going to guess that there would be community dollars available.
I bet you're right.
They do
fundraising, yeah.
Well, I know, but I wondered if they're typically, in certain years, if there's some kids that don't participate in fundraising, families not really.
Sure.
I mean, that's, for a kid to fundraise, parents usually are part of that.
Well,
Parents
the,
actually, yes.
the number of kids that go to Washington DC has diminished because the cost has risen exponentially between the time that my granddaughter went when she was in 8th grade to when my grandson went. There's 4 years difference. It was like almost triple the price for essentially the same thing. So the number of kids that go, but I think what we're trying to work out here is like the field trip that they're taking to the museum center, which is actually part of the school day and part of the whole instructional kind of thing.
For sure.
That we've always had funds available if the kid had to pay, that if somebody actually could not pay to go, we did not leave the child behind.
Sure.
And that's gone on for
years.
That's gone on for years, but it's not one of these bigger trips that's sort of optional. But if you have a whole team at the middle school or a whole class that's going on a field trip and you have somebody that simply cannot afford it, we don't leave that kid behind.
No, absolutely not. We'll find a way to pay.
Yeah.
But Leslie, I think Ann may have answered the question a little bit.
Well,
in
that's
regards
more
to
about the policy. I
getting
wasn't
more
really, I understand the
expensive.
policy
Yeah.
and support that. I'm saying I'm just curious what that looks like and how much, Dan says, it's gone up so much, and how many students are able to and aren't able to, and I don't know. That is a civics, a lesson in civics.
Sure
and
is.
that, and
It's a
we
great
don't
trip.
have enough civics education in our schools, so I just wondered, maybe that's way out there, but what it would cost and if we could find support.
Kim, let's work on that, remind me, and we'll see if we can figure out from Brian, typically in a given year, how many students are not able to afford that trip, and we'll see if we can get dollar amount attached to that.
There's always more that show up for the interest meeting, and
of
then
course.
they
Sure.
find out how much it's gonna cost. But the last 8th grade trip that they took a year ago when my grandson went, even with a room with 4 people, it was about approximately $2,000. And it had been well under 1,000 when my granddaughter went. So it's a worth it trip, but it's a very expensive trip.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for the input, I appreciate that. Any questions? D450 is a resignation policy. There's some language in here, essentially, that we wanted to revise in regards to the ability to essentially withdraw a resignation if circumstances required that, or it just made sense. I mean, sometimes life situations change, and you might have a retirement notice that's given to you in the month of January or December, and then you might have a death in the family or something happens. And so that's what that policy is for. But it speaks to the process by which, or how you resign from a position, and that language is all there. So G375 is community use of school facilities. We do allow our facilities to be used by outside entities. We receive those requests on a regular basis. There's a process to that, of proving you have liability insurance that names us as an additional insured. We want to make sure that the functions, the things that happen in those school buildings are within the scope of what we believe to be okay in terms of morality, but also in terms of safety. So that policy essentially spells out all of that. H-150 is public records. We're required, obviously, to comply with Indiana's Access to Public Records Act. That requires us to retain records for a certain period of time. It requires us to release records when they're requested. All of those things are spelled out in law, and this policy essentially speaks to those expectations for us as a school in regards to public records. D400 is FMLA. This essentially just affirms our corporation's commitment to make sure that we follow FMLA laws as they're written, which we of course do. G400, Title I comparability policy, ensures equitable distribution of state and local resources across schools. This essentially is a policy that's required from the federal government for us to receive our Title I funding. So those are your policies for first reading. And again, we have a few other loose ends. I've sent you a few different documents that show the work that's happening right now in the background in terms of our administrative appendices, which is what we used to call essentially our administrative guidelines, and doing a cross comparison of both, which is, it's a lot. It's a lot. So what we're doing is making sure all of those documents are up to date. We're seeing which ones we need to keep, which ones we don't need to keep. If you remember, policy obviously is under the purview of the board. Administrative guidelines are in the purview of the superintendent and the team. So we essentially make administrative guidelines that fit within board policy that you set. So you say, here's the governance, and I say, and we say, this is how we operate underneath that governance that's been set. So, but it's pretty heavy lift. I mean, some of those documents have been here since the 90s, since I was in high school. So again, which do we need, which do we not need? I don't want to accidentally throw out the baby with the bathwater, right? So I'm a little worried about that. That's why people that have context that's a little wider and deeper than me, they're really important in this process. I did a lot of that work over Christmas break, hours and hours of it. I'm still not there yet. We still have a lot of work to do. The hard thing is when kids come back, teachers come back, it kind of gets put on pause again. So we'll get back in that. I don't know that I'm going to get that done until we have some time to really pause again in the summer. That's okay, right? Because again, some of those documents haven't been updated for a few decades, so it's going to be okay.
We found that same, we found the same thing as we're going through the policies.
Yeah.
It's-
And no one's fault, right?
No,
It is what it is. If those forms haven't been used or if they haven't needed updated, right? Some of them don't even need updated. So, so Kim and I and Jim and the team are working through that right now, so, okay.
Moving on to public comments. A person wishing to make the board aware of suggestions, ideas, and/or comments may address the board at this time. Comments which involve personnel or students must be discussed in private. Report items. ISBA.
Okay, well, there's a number, if you read your emails, and I know this ISBA sends a lot. There's the coffee chat here on the 23rd at 8:30 in the morning. Obviously COSBA, there's State House Day, which I'll be attending, which is in February, and those are all available. Today I participated in ISBA's Ask ISBA Anything You Want to Ask. It was interesting because they spent a lot of time on election and on the filing period, which, I mean, this changed a couple of years ago, but the filing period's in May or June. I think legislator, that was the first attempt to avoid partisan elections, was if the legislature was willing to move back the filing date, thinking they were persuaded by School Board Association and other supporting agencies to allow more time, because their feeling was the public doesn't know anything about these candidates' filing periods in August and the votes in November. There's no time to know their positions. Well, the filing period is still in May, and they did make elections partisan. But just to go over, and we touched on this when Ryan resigned, and we were talking about applicants and whether Ryan declared a party or not, and they went over that again today. And I asked Terry if ISBA has a position. And of course, keep in mind, ISBA did not support partisan elections. They're careful, and they don't want to alienate legislators that they work with. But they did say this is a conversation to go before the board. I've talked a couple times with Jeremy, and I'd like, well, I think I mentioned this, but I may not have. I'd like to see maybe Jeremy or Erica as board president do something in the newspaper about what it means if you declare a party. For us, like when Ryan resigned, if he had declared a party, we did not get to interview. The party would just pick somebody. They told a story about Evansville, they had somebody resign. No, the board discussed what they wanted to do with this upcoming election in November. And whoever is on the board that's running, they all said they were not going to declare a party. That they believed that this is not a partisan position, that this is, we don't discuss agendas, political agendas. And then one of the parties, in response to that, I guess was an article in the newspaper, said, well then, we are going to put forth candidates. So it felt like retribution, that's how they shared it. And it's not a primary. So as many people that want to can always run for school board. So you can have, multiple members of a party or independents or you don't have to declare a party. And there was a lot of questioning about that. So I do think it'll be good for us to provide some education to the public.
That's a good thought.
Somebody made this clarification to me one time. Because we are government funded, that in essence that's political. But we are not partisan. Partisan is where there's positions, there's some agenda items, there are declarations parties make of what they support and they don't support. There's a difference between partisanship and political. So not to confuse, and that's an important distinction, because we use government money, typically we would be considered political, but we are nonpartisan. So I just wanted to share that. I mean, we're ways off from June when the filing period is. But I'm a strong believer myself, and everybody gets their own choice on this, that this is not a partisan. We're now the 4th state in the United States that has added that. So that shows that it's not a very popular position. So
Also, too, the article in the Connersville News Examiner, I called the clerk's office because the News Examiner thing said what the filing period was, and it did not delineate, it talked about all of the elections that were coming, but it did not delineate that the school board election filing time was different than and I called the clerk's office to double check on this, because in the article it literally listed everything that was going to be elected, and it says, and this is the time that you have to declare your candidacy. And there was nothing in there that said, well, wait a minute, school board is not this early filing period between now and February something. It starts after the primary and then goes into June. And my thought was, well, what if somebody wanted to run for school board, they came in and tried to do it now and then found out, well, wait a minute, this was not your time to do it. So I'm hoping that the News Examiner will clarify that, because the tenor of the article was that if you wanted to run any time this year, you had between basically the middle of January till the middle of February to declare your candidacy. So I hope they have something in the paper or something to, and the lady at the clerk's office actually had to look it up. She says, I'm not sure, because of the changes in the statute and the fact that it is a declaration of party now.
Yeah.
But there's still,
you can run without a party, and school board's always at the last page of the ballot, and you can't use a straight party ticket for school board. You can't use it for voting judges in and out. Those questions they always have at the back, those you can't, you have to do those separate from your vote. But anyway, that's all I have about ISBA. Thank you. Yeah.
Principal Director's Report.
I just want to thank the board and cabinet for letting Grandview present tonight, and I want to give a shout out to Brittany
and Kim Cook, they completed their first semester. We have a group chat, it's called Women at Work. It's our group chat for the elementary team, and they have just done such a dynamic job and bring ideas and stuff and help us get new perspectives and solving problems. So just a shout out to them for their first successful semester.
Oh, thanks.
Just for clarification, I'm not in the group chat.
Yeah, Eric.
You are not.
Both of them myself.
Director of Operations report.
So you should have the fund report, magic green sheet in your packet. So, yeah, just items to note. We established the new Eastview Construction bond account, so we did get our drawdown for that portion. That should be in our coffers there. Obviously, there's lots of negatives down below and on the second page. So there's like $1 million outstanding that are supposed to be coming in. So
The 2 Decembers.
the 2 Decembers. Yes, December. Is it
Just says December and December.
December and December? Yeah. So this should be. This December versus last December.
Okay, so which one are we, the second one?
The second one.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
That's fine.
To the right, yes, is current, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Assistant Superintendent's report.
We do not have anything to report this evening.
Good.
Did you know?
Superintendent's report.
Okay, so just a couple things here really quickly. I did put out information today, but the natatorium ribbon cutting will be the January the 26th. That ribbon cutting is going to be at 6:30. 6:30 to 7:30 will be an open house thereafter. And so excited to invite people in. I did send you a picture of some kind of exciting things that are happening. That's kind of a surprise. So excited for that. We did put out this week as well about our teachers licensure support fund. I know I provided some information to you about that. So thank you to the Fayette Community Foundation for that. But essentially what that does is providing up to $2,000 in funding per staff member to support them for furthering licensure. We have licensure exams that folks have to take that are expensive. We have people in our high school building that we may ask to teach a dual credit class that need additional credentials. Those things are not cheap. And so we're thankful for the foundation and their willingness to do that for us. Yeah, it's a big deal for our people. I mean, if you think about that in terms of having a tight budget and having to pay out tuition support dollars or tuition dollars or money to pay for a test, it's a big deal. So Spring Count Day is coming, February the 2nd. I know Dr. Summers spoke on the importance of ADM earlier. That spring day that we use for our count is the 2nd of February. If you remember, October 1 is the first date, right? Then you have your February 2nd date, and then you have a date in the summer that essentially you project and you say this is what we're thinking we're going to have. So, and you settle up essentially in between if you're above or below that number. But this February 2nd date is another one of those students and teach days that we look forward to because it's important for funding. To your point, Ann, earlier, I think you mentioned mid-year grads. I think we'll have some of those. Obviously, we had 31, I think, this year. And so we'll get you that number and make sure you know what that is as soon as we can. We've mentioned it before. I did send you what Mrs. Crisaro has worked so hard on, which is our January 19th Professional Learning Day. We've worked really hard to make those days eventful, different for our staff. Like we've taken a very conference approach and style to it. So we have a keynote speaker, Jim McMillan, who is a local guy, which is awesome. His wife Amy obviously works for us, but Jim is super talented. Like he's so good. He's going to be with us for a keynote at the beginning of the day, but then we have 22 different breakout sessions throughout the day. Is that right? 22-ish? Something like that. That are a combination of people from our community that are coming in to present, and then our own people being lead learners and lead teachers for our other staff, which is really, really cool. And so we have anything from BAM Fitness is going to be here to do some stuff for our teachers in terms of self-care. The pottery people coming in do a little work like that, which is more self-care, the self-care way. And then we
Meal planning with
Matt
Matt Huffman.
Yeah, Mr. Huffman's coming in from On My, what, help me.
Your way catered.
Your way, yeah.
Your way catered.
So we're doing that kind of work, but also obviously very academic work, very data-driven work, lots of things going on throughout the day. I sent it to you so you can look at it. If you're interested, you're welcome to join us at any point in time today if you'd like to. We've got some other community partners that are going to be here as well. East Central Education Service Center will be here. IU East will be here. Grand Canyon University will be here. IU East is going to focus on how does a classified employee get licensed to be a certified employee, right, if they choose to. So just trying to provide a lot of opportunities.
They
for
may
our
want to
people
come to
grow.
the graduate panel too.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. So we have some graduates. You can speak to that, Kim, go ahead.
We
please.
have invited 4 graduates back, and we're calling it Celebrate the Success. And they're going to talk about what inspired them to get to where they are in their careers, and impactful educators, and then also help us to make sure that we're preparing our graduates the best that we can before we send them off into the workforce. So we have a variety of people, and it's going to be really fun. And our CHS Today student is going to conduct the interviews on the panel.
So one of our students will be the one
Yeah.
that actually asks the questions. So
Yeah, it'll be really cool.
It'd be fun. It'd be fun. But Mrs. Crisara has put in countless hours on that, so I just want to give her a kudos on that because she's done a great job. So we did have a bus accident here recently. Obviously, I put that on social media. I also communicated to you. Just wanted to make sure you know, and the public knows that obviously we put that out publicly to make sure people do. Like when you see a bus on the side of the road, it's scary. And no kids were involved. All 3 of our staff members walked away with no injuries, which is really, really awesome. Could have been a lot worse. Like had to hit truly head on. And so very thankful that it wasn't worse. We've not heard back from our adjusters yet to the status of the vehicle. It's not in great shape, but we still haven't gotten that word yet. But they were essentially training. So anybody that drives a minibus in our corporation has to go through training annually, right? And so whether that be a teacher, a coach, like all of those folks, Lou and Daryl and Garland, the team, put those people on the road, and they go out and train in the mornings typically, or afternoons, and that's what they were doing that morning, was they were doing some
It
training.
was a terrible time of day because it was right foggy. When people from the south side of town are trying to get across the bypass, to get to the high school, to get to Frazee, to get anywhere, and to back traffic up through town, something really terrible. I'm glad nobody was hurt, but it was a mess on that end of
We were
town.
very thankful. Yeah, it's never a fun phone call to receive in the morning when Daryl calls me with that news.
Yeah.
I do want to give our band, choir, music teachers kudos for wonderful holiday programs that they put on during the holiday season. Did a wonderful job with that. And also want to say thank you to each of you. Obviously, January is Board Appreciation Month, and there's no words that I can say that are going to appropriately say thank you for the work that you put in, the selfless work you put in. As we mentioned earlier, I know you don't do it for the money. You do it because you love serving and you love children and you want to make a difference. And so I thank you for that. I thank you that you're a board that understands that and gets that, because that above all else matters. So thank you. That's all I've got.
Erica, 2 things I forgot. One, we will have the road open hopefully next week to start rolling buses out.
Yes.
And the bigger and better thing is Luke Weiler, Dalton Rose, 96% on their bus inspection.
Thank you for bringing
Probably
that
top
up.
3 in the state.
Wow. That's
great.
That's
So if you
awesome.
see them, let them know, because they did work hard at that. And we could be number 1, but I think we're going to be top 3.
That's
Nice.
great.
So
We have
Bill,
really good people.
Do you anticipate that new way to get out is going to help the traffic flow?
absolutely, and it's going to slow down what we're tearing up out here.
Yes.
I mean, those buses are, this road is not that deep, it's about 4 inches,
Okay.
and we're just destroying it, so.
Well,
this is-
and just the traffic aspect of it is going to be huge.
It's going to relieve traffic in here, it's going to relieve trying to stop at stop signs, and it's just going to be tremendous, so I appreciate Dr. Summers actually loosening up with some money, but I did hear we have money.
You said words that I usually don't say.
Well, you might
Daryl never
be
has it.
sorry that you said that.
He
For the
tells
man
me
who
that
controls the purse
He
strings.
tells me that every day, so.
Wonderful.
The good thing is he can't say, no, we're not having heat today.
For the good of the cause.
Thank you, Chartwells, for the
Yes.
school board gifts. We appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Well, may we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Anyone second? All in favor? Anyone opposed?
Let's stand up. Come on.